What's up, Game Devs, and thank you for joining me on Game Dev Loadout. I'm your host, Tony Chan, and for the show, I will go by the name T Chan. I want episode 1 to be a short 10-minute introduction where I will talk about why I'm doing this podcast, how it will be formatted, and the valuable information I hope it will bring to you. I will then end off the episode with a bit about my background and how you can effectively utilize the show. So thanks again for joining me, and let's go ahead and start with why I'm doing this podcast. So my mission is to interview experienced game developers 7 days a week so that we can learn about their backgrounds, the obstacles they have to overcome, and the tools they use to reach success. This is valuable information for people that are in the process of making a game or thinking about getting into the game industry. By learning what they do to make themselves effective, we can do the same and start off on the right track. I will be interviewing many different positions, including programmers, producers, marketers, artists, audio composers, and many more. So, because video game development involves many different skill sets, and I want to explore it all. So this podcast is for people who don't know where to begin, where to go, who to talk to, or just need some motivation and encouragement. As a new game developer myself, leading a team of 3 to create a small mobile game, I learned how complicated the process can be. And I just cannot imagine working on a bigger AAA game. And I read stories of how game development can take a toll on people's finance, relationships, and time. And so it motivated me to seek out experienced game developers to learn how they did it all. So join me on this adventure to learn and model after the best. As your host and messenger, I will do my best to give you as much value as possible. Now, here are the beginning questions. To start off each episode, I will ask our guests their background. It's important to understand how they got started and what they are currently doing in order to get the bigger picture of their whole journey. Then I will ask a major obstacle they had to face and overcome. We will find out what caused the problem, how they solved it, and what important values they learned from it. We are bound to face similar hardships that they face, and so I want game devs to relate and know that they can overcome the same thing. Next, I will ask what they are most excited about today. This will be fun and interesting to know what they are looking forward to. Now, of course, there will be other questions here and there, but these are the main questions I will ask in the beginning. Now, during probably a third of the episodes, I got something called the crunch time. As many of you might know, crunch time is where developers put in overtime and hard work to make sure their game gets released on time. I thought really hard using this word because it has many negative themes to it, but it's important that we keep in mind that it's coming, and it's important to tackle it effectively when it comes. I hope our guests can give us the best loadout when the time comes so that we can effectively produce the best results during crunch time. And so basically during crunch time on the show, I will ask our guests the resources they use to reach success, from advices they follow to resources they use. It will all be valuable information. I really love this last question I will ask because it will help new game developers figure out how to get started. The question is, imagine you woke up the next morning in a brand new world and you knew no one. You still have all the experience and knowledge you currently have today. Your food and shelter is taken care of and you have a laptop. What would you do step by step on the path to become a great game developer? This will give us an idea of how they would begin anew, and we could follow the same or similar route. We will end off the show with a parting piece of guidance and how we can connect with our guests. And I want to make sure you do this, game devs. Most of our guests after the interview give us their contact information. It's so important that we take this opportunity to ask them questions. When they give us their contact information, just ask them questions. Simple email about a specific question you have, just email them and they will be happy to help. Now, as for the podcast format, I chose podcast as my way of communication because it's simply one of the best ways to take in information. You can listen to the podcast during your commute to work, while playing video games, while developing video games, jogging, cleaning dishes, taking a bath. You get the idea. Each episode will be around 30 minutes long. I plan to publish one episode every single day, 7 days a week. And the reason is because I want people to listen to new stories every single day, gain new knowledge, new tools, and keep that encouragement and motivation going throughout every single day. And you can check out GameDevLoadout.com for all the links and tools and for more information. Doing 7 days a week is a huge endeavor, and it's one I'm willing to give it my all because I believe hearing the journeys, like I said before, hearing it every day will implant the drive to keep us to want to learn more and take action. My point is that by taking action and listening consistently, you will be more knowledgeable and confident, and hopefully in the end take action. One word I want us to keep in mind is action. That's going to be one of my key words. We must constantly master our craft, constantly face our challenges, and most importantly, never ever stop. I am determined to make this podcast great and give you as much value as possible. The video game industry is growing each year, and so there are more opportunities every single year, especially with AR and VR on the rise. So here's my motto to you. Knowledge is only potential power. Execution is the game. So after every episode, equip yourself with the best loadout and take action. I want to quickly give a shout out to John Lee Dumas of E of Fire. His podcast inspired me and gave me the system to model after and make this podcast. So please check him out if you want to be inspired as an entrepreneur. My show greatly resembles his, except that I'm interviewing game developers and tweak some of the questions. I listen to the show every single day to get that motivation to learn about new tools to become more productive. He recommended a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller, and wow, that book was amazing. It teaches you how to focus on your main priority of the day and avoid distractions that will hamper your productivity. So thanks again, JLD, and I appreciate everything you do. Let's talk about the podcast name. Game Dev obviously stands for game developers, and I love the word loadout because in multiplayer games like Call of Duty or Titanfall, you have to choose a loadout before the match begins. And depending on the loadout you choose, which could be a good loadout or a bad loadout, you either dominate the match or get dominated. I want our guests to give us the best loadout possible. I have a ton of resources listed on my website that you can check out, courtesy of Tim Ruswick from Game Dev Underground. He helped find all of these resources, and I really appreciate him for helping me out. As for my logo for the podcast, which is a hand holding a controller while giving a thumbs up, it's meant to tell people they are doing a great job at game development and to keep pushing forward. It gives encouragement and positivity. I want to build a community where we could give each other ideas, support one another, and ultimately become better game developers. So having a positive mindset and body makes a huge difference. My background. So my name is Tony Chan. I already went with that. I'm 27 years old with a wife, a miniature poodle, and a baby girl that's just a few months old now. NES was my first system, and I absolutely loved Duck Hunt, shooting them with that gun. Then I experienced amazing games like A Link to the Past, Metal Gear Solid, Super Mario, and The Last of Us. Video games bring me so much joy, and it brings joy to other people's life. I consider it the best interactive experience ever. And this is a true story. For some reason, I cannot for the life of me learn how to read before 3rd grade. One game changed all that, and that was Final Fantasy VII. A giant RPG, a game full of dialogues to read, and I read every single word one by one. Teachers were so surprised at how well I read when I got to the 3rd grade that they thought I was a different person. So as you can see, video games hold a dear place in my heart. Fast forward to college, I hit a huge obstacle. I found out that I absolutely suck at programming. Man, I tried learning C#, C++, Python, and for some reason I couldn't grasp that. Just like that, my dream of becoming a game developer disappeared. I sucked at art too, so there was no way I was going to become an artist. So after college, I just got a regular corporate job as a market researcher for like the next 3 or 4 years. And then I eventually came upon a book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, and it introduced me to the concept of outsourcing. And honestly, I was skeptical at first, but holy moly, it was cheap and easy to hire people. So instantly my passion to create games risen again. I immediately hired a programmer and an artist to help me make a small mobile game. It's been nearly 6 months now, and it's absolutely been amazing. I had a ton of ups and downs, but overall, I did love the experience. There were plenty of times where my wife told me to stop using money because we spent like around $3,000 but I was determined to complete the game, and I always can make the extra money on the side and save money in other places. So for example, a few things I did to save money was I stopped eating out, going out with friends, or even moved in with my mother-in-law to save money. And I only use the money when it's an absolute investment. Like for the podcast, I saved a lot of money to invest in all these softwares and equipments. So to keep it short, if I learn how about Game Design Document or GDD, use better application and software, use better techniques, use certain tools, etc., my game development process would have been much, much smoother. I should have researched more, check how other people develop the games, network, and ask more questions. I want to avoid bad mistakes and learn from the best. So this is when I thought about the podcast. Other game devs either experience the same situation like me or have no idea how to get started. And I'm hoping this podcast will be your go-to guide for direction and inspiration. So this podcast is a great opportunity for game devs and I to learn from the best and minimize mistake. My mission statement is to produce a daily podcast interviewing the world's most experienced game developers 7 days a week, sharing their journey and empowering listeners with the best loadout to stay motivated and to continue to make great games. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you're feeling excited to listen to the next episode. Remember to equip yourself with the best loadout and take action. If you think this podcast is for you, I encourage you to stick around for the next episodes. It will be fun, interesting, and filled with value. Go ahead and check out GameDevLoadout.com for more information. You can also subscribe to my email list or contact me for feedback. I would love to hear what you have to say. Remember that knowledge is only potential power. Execution is the game. So until then, stay tuned for the next episode. T-Chain out.